This hour of the Costa Report is brought to you by Dole Food Company, the world's leading producer and distributor of fresh fruits and vegetables.
Welcome to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and thank you for joining me for another 2 hours of Straight Talk Radio. I want to take a moment to welcome U.S. military personnel who are tuning in on the internet today. Thank you for being with us again. My guest this hour is attorney, actor, and former senator from Tennessee, Mr. Fred Thompson. Thompson played a key role in the Senate's Watergate investigation, and in just a moment, he'll be joining us to talk about how current investigations into what happened in Benghazi, as well as overreach by the IRS, must be handled to make certain the truth comes out. But before Mr. Thompson joins us, as is my custom each week, let me tell you a little bit about his background. Freddie Dalton Thompson was born in Sheffield, Alabama, and as a youth attended the public school system in Tennessee, where his first jobs included working for the local post office and the Murray Bike Plant. He earned 2 undergraduate degrees from the University of Memphis and later his law degree from Vanderbilt. Thompson was admitted to the State Bar of Tennessee in 1967. Within 2 years, Thompson began work as assistant U.S. attorney, a position he held until 1972, when he was charged with managing the re-election campaign for Senator Howard Baker. Then in 1973, he was appointed minority counsel to the Senate Watergate Committee, a turning point in Thompson's career. He made such an indelible mark during that investigation that he was also later asked to serve as the special counsel to the Foreign Relations Committee, special counsel to the Senate Intelligence Committee, and member of the Appellate Court Nominating Commission for the state of Tennessee. And somehow, between all of these appointments, Thompson managed to maintain his practice as an attorney and to accept his first acting role, playing none other than himself in the film Marie. By 1994, Thompson was elected by a landslide to the United States Senate, and in 1996, he was reelected for a second term. While serving in the Senate, Thompson worked on the Committee on Governmental Affairs, Finance Committee, Intelligence Committee, and National Security Working Group, to just name a few. At the end of his second term, Thompson made a surprise decision to leave the Senate and pursue his other passion, acting. He accepted the coveted role as New York District Attorney on the long-running television series Law and Order. But by 2007, the call to return to public service could no longer be quashed, and Thompson entered the race for the presidency of the United States, a race he withdrew from in early 2008, and that's something we'll hear a little more about later in the program. Today, Thompson continues to play an active role in politics while appearing regularly in film and television. I also want to add that Mr. Thompson is a prolific blogger and has one of the most active conservative websites on the internet. It's my pleasure to welcome to the program today straight-talking former Senator, Mr. Fred Thompson. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Thompson.
Well, thank you very much for having me with you.
Now, I read somewhere that you have been credited with coming up with Senator Baker's unforgettable line during the Watergate investigation. What did the president know, and when did he know it? And it strikes me as ironic that this is the same question we're now asking some 40 years later when it comes to the overreach by the IRS, the tragedy in Benghazi, and other controversies that we're only beginning to scratch the surface of. So I wanted to open the program today by asking you whether the Oval Office today is any more transparent than it may have been 4 decades ago when you were minority counsel to the Senate Watergate Committee.
Well, first of all, let me once again try to set the record straight. This is quite a commentary, I guess, on modern technology more than anything else. There is absolutely no truth to that statement. You're right. It's been said many, many times that I was the one who gave that idea to Senator Baker. No part of that is accurate. And but once it's said forever. And so we're
everyone has credited you with that line.
Yes,
poor Mr. Baker.
Anybody asks me, and sometimes when they don't, I set the record straight. This, it's vintage Howard Baker. Anybody that knows him, and some a phrase like that, a question like that, he was trying to get to to the essence of it. That's what was on everybody's mind. And
well, I'm not surprised at all that you would come forward with the amount of, the degree of credibility and honesty that you're known for. I'm not surprised at all that you would come forward. But once something, as you say, once something becomes folklore, there's just no stopping it. I think you might be stuck with that line, Mr. Thompson.
That is it. Well, it's fine. There's plenty of things that I'm credited for that I'm not so proud of.
And you can't make those go away either.
But I can't make those, and I just have given up worrying about it. But in all seriousness, it got to the essence of that, and it has become a phrase that's.
So are we asking that same question today? Because it seems to me that the only thing that we should be driving at relative to the IRS scandal, Benghazi, any of these issues that are on the table right now, is what did the president know and when did he know it? I think that just sums it up, doesn't it?
It's not. It is an important consideration, but no, it's not the whole story, and most of these things, most of these inquiries are complex or multifaceted. There's blame to be lodged in a lot of different places, and it's kind of complex sometimes as to what constitutes knowledge, and is it specifically something that you and I would consider to be knowledge, or what about the idea that the president is responsible for what his key underlings do, especially when it's obvious that can someone not rid me of this meddlesome priest? And that's significant too. So there's a lot of aspects to that, but people want to cut to it, and that's kind of a pet peeve of mine nowadays. Having been through several of these investigations, both as a lawyer and Watergate on up, and then when I served in the Senate, we looked at the campaign finance issues and things of that nature. There's a lot of aspects to it. How is our system working? Is it a matter of just a handful of people or a person or even a president doing something bad, which is always going to happen? Power seems to breed corruption after a while, or is it something that's systemic, in the nature of our government? Mm-hmm. So it's important, but it's certainly not the only important question. And with regard to what we're facing now, I think it's pretty clear that the administration's in the process of trying to cover up several scandals. I think that what happened in Benghazi is outrageous, and to me the most serious one of them, because of loss of life and because of the extent to which the administration went to deceive the American people. It's not that important to me is specifically what the president knew, although you'll notice that we don't know where he was when Benghazi was taking place, whether he was in the Situation Room, whether he was even on the premises, who all he talked to, things of that nature. The press doesn't seem to be terribly interested in that with regard to Barack Obama. Mm-hmm. But what about Hillary Clinton and her responsibilities directly with regard to those embassies? What about the military that was on the scene, both in Washington, D.C. and in the theater out there?
Mm-hmm. We have to take a short commercial break, but when we come back, I'd like to continue talking about Benghazi, because I have a question about all the Americans that got out of the embassy, and where are they now, and why are they not being interviewed, and where has the media been relative to asking them their opinion about American response? So we'll talk about that when we come back on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Costa Report.
This Legal Minute is brought to you by Nolan, Hammerly, Etienne, and Haas, experienced attorneys providing professional legal services to the Central Coast for 85 years.
Hello, this is attorney Stephen Wagner with your Legal Minute. Have you ever said to yourself there ought to be a law for that? Well, often there is. In this segment, I will address the issue of social media and hiring practices, and specifically the potential employer's right to snoop around in social media networks to gather information about the potential employee. From the employer's perspective, social networking sites must seem like a treasure trove or petri dish, overflowing with valuable information. The hot-button legal issue that has arisen recently relates to the employer's request, or worse yet, demand, for the candidate's password and or username. It is this conduct by the employer that has sparked outcry and controversy based on privacy rights, and this has led to legislation and the enactment of laws that now prohibit employers from making such demands or requests. Such is the case in California and several other states. It would now seem that the lid has been placed back on the petri dish. However, it is important to note that employers still have a right to access all public information. That is, anything the potential or current employee chooses to share, publish, or make public. In other words, these laws do not protect job seekers from their own stupidity or indiscretions that they decide to gloat about by publishing their escapades on the World Wide Web. So it seems that discretion is still the better part of valor. This is Stephen Wagner, and that's your Legal Minute.
Brought to you by Nolan, Hammerly, Etienne, and Haas. Selected in 2013 as one of the top law firms in the United States by Martindale-Hubbell.
Look, the worst part about business travel is worrying about my wife and kids at home alone. My family's safety is my responsibility. That's why I started researching home security. I called the big alarm companies, checked online, even looked at doing it myself. But the best technology for the best price came from Vivint. They even won the Consumer's Digest Best Buy Award. Yes, Vivint gives me a complete security system, but it does even more. Vivint's video technology is unreal. I can see what's going on in my home right from my smartphone, tablet, or computer. I can even lock the doors remotely if my kids forget. Best yet, I got Vivint's no equipment costs and free install deal. $1,200 worth of camera and security equipment at no charge. Vivint was the easy choice for my family's safety.
Take control of your family's safety with Vivint. Order now for up to $1,200 in security equipment at no charge. Just pay as little as $99 for activation. Plus, call now and installation is free. Call 1-800-345-4075. That's 1-800-345-4075. 1-800-345-4075.
If you own property, you know how much hard work goes into keeping up with it. Kubota compact tractors can help you power through all kinds of spring chores. If you're thinking, I'd love to own a Kubota, but can I afford a Kubota? Think CNN Tractors in Watsonville. At CNN, Kubota quality pays for a lot less than you might think. For example, the feature-loaded L3200F starts at only $12,995 with a 31.9 horsepower Kubota diesel engine. Nothing wimpy under the hood. The L3200F also features a Category 1 3-point hitch, smooth shuttle transmission, and power steering. All standard, and all with the durability and reliability that a Kubota is known for. Kubota's L3200F. Think about it. With so much power, versatility, and quality, you can't afford not to take a look. Check out Kubota at CNN Tractors in Watsonville. Give us your tough jobs.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and my guest is actor, attorney, lobbyist, and former Senator Fred Thompson. And before the break, you were making the point that it's now become clear that there was a great deal of misinformation issued by the administration regarding Benghazi. Along those lines, not long ago, I had an opportunity to talk to Linda Tripp, who is the only person I know of who served both Bush and Clinton in the Oval Office corridor. And she made the point that during the entire time that she was serving President Bush and Clinton, that there was never a time that the president is out of touch with the Situation Room. Never. And she really stressed that point. And so to your point earlier, before we took the break, there seems to be some confusion about who was in the Situation Room and whether the Secretary of State, whether the president was in touch. What's your feeling about that?
Well, my feeling, number one, is that a lot of folks ought to turn in their press credentials. How many press conferences we had? Not many, really, but how many opportunities, I should say, has the press had to question the president in one form or another about that very thing? That question has never been put to him. He doesn't have to answer it. Nobody knows.
Why isn't it being put to him? Why aren't they just asking
because
point blank? Under two administrations, we had two presidents that were never out of touch with the Situation Room. How could you be out of touch?
They had to be dragged kicking and screaming even to cover this thing. The press did. Most of the media did. There's only been a couple of news outlets that's followed this. I mean, this was the most obvious, disgraceful mess up that we have seen, come from our government in decades. Mm-hmm. And it's just one of many questions. I mean, the people, the perpetrators of these murders still running around Benghazi. CBS or CNN can go over and interview them. But apparently we can't. We save our drones for somebody in the wilderness in Yemen or something like that. But these guys apparently have been identified and walking around free. Our FBI was not even allowed in there on the murder scene to investigate the thing, and news outlets were going in there and picking up scraps of paper and diaries and that the sort of thing. I mean, it's just been disgraceful, and the only answer to that is some kind of decent investigation and inquiry as to what happened. And Congress, the House is trying to do that. They have a committee, looking at those things. They may know more than we do about it. Certainly would expect that they would. And they may eventually get to the bottom of it. I don't know. Everybody wants quick answers and problem solved immediately. It doesn't really happen that way. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But I do think they're making a terrible mistake by not forming a special committee to look into this, of people who have expertise in all of the relevant areas, who can come together and full-time, absent the voting duties that they have as members of Congress, and devote full time to getting to the bottom of this and hire some professional staff to help them do that. I'm afraid the administration is going to waltz them around, and they're going to have competing press conferences and go on the Sunday talk shows and call each other names and things like that. And with a little help from their friends in the mass media, they will wear this thing out, and it will fritter away. And there's Congress, not wanting to get their hands too dirty for fear there might be a backlash. There are members of Congress who don't.
What kind of backlash could there be?
Well, in the media, I mean, the first time that anything that happens, they tried to put it to bed the other day, the IRS scandal. Mm-hmm. Somebody came up and said, well, do you know that the president was directly involved in this? And no, I don't know anything like that. They said, okay, well, that's the end of that. It's the end of that investigation. So instead of building it brick by brick, starting at the lower levels and getting your information and then putting somebody else under oath and having them run the risk of perjury and put the pressure on them to tell the truth and work your way up the way an investigation is supposed to be done, it's being done. They're being inundated with all these scandals, and they're trying to handle them all. And committee chairmen don't want to give up their jurisdiction. Everybody wants the limelight. Everybody wants to hold the press conferences and all of that instead of going about it the right way. I'm afraid they'll never get to the bottom of it. And between the power of the White House, their ability and their willingness to do anything, and the assistance by a gullible press that's never wanted to get into this for fear of embarrassing Obama, it'll go away.
So what you're saying is we don't really have any oversight.
No, that you put your finger precisely on the point. I did a little piece in my blog the other day on that, and my point was that people have decided that there's not sufficient oversight with regard to this NSA spying, the collection of stuff, the phone records and that sort of thing.
Right, the metadata.
And the metadata issue and all that. I said, guess what? There's no oversight on anything.
Right, why single that out?
It's not limited to that. It's with regard to anything. Members of Congress, the Republicans control the House. The Senate, of course, out of the question. They're not going to do anything. But the Republicans do control the House. They have to run for office every 2 years. Between their other committee responsibilities, they're running home on weekends. They're constantly running for re-election. They're constantly raising money. They're constantly on all these shows and trying to help themselves that way. They are no match for a determined administration with their resources and their friends in the media that doesn't want to cooperate. Look at Fast and Furious. Look, they caught in direct lies, held the Attorney General in contempt, and that's the end of that.
Well, the problem with no oversight is there's no consequence, so you can just run amok and nothing happens.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly. I mean, our system was set up on the basis of checks and balances. And we all know that, but it's not it's not being. Everybody's got to do their role and do their part, and it's gotten so that it's not being done. Every Congress is supposed to pass 1,000 bills, or they're not considered to be working hard enough at doing their job. And when the bills are passed, they're too often nowadays 1,000 pages.
Or they're renaming a building in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, or some waste of time like that. The interstate highway system was created by a bill that was less than 20 pages.
Yeah, you bet. Well, we got a tax code that went from 400 pages to 75,000 pages, so I shouldn't be that surprised.
Who's overseeing that, right?
Right. Well, we've got to take another commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Fred Thompson about our schizophrenic foreign policy. You're listening to the Costa Report.
Hi, I'm Amy Tobin, cookbook author and culinary expert. Strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries. Dole has a bounty of berries ripe for the picking. Fresh berries are not only delicious, but some of the most powerful disease-fighting foods available. Researchers have found that berries have some of the highest antioxidant levels of any fresh fruits. So add a handful or two of your favorite berries to your next meal and enjoy their nutritional benefits and natural sweetness in all of your dishes, from salads to desserts and everything in between. For fresh tips and ideas from Dole's berry experts, visit berries.dole.com. And be sure to check out the pages of mouth-watering recipes. Whether it's a sweet and savory blueberry cranberry chicken salad or a simple strawberry sorbet, Dole has the perfect berry to inspire your next berrylicious dish.
Before you head out onto the open road, head on over to North Bay Ford and test drive a new eco-friendly, fuel-efficient Ford Energy car or truck. Hello, I'm Bobby Robinson. North Bay Ford is your locally owned dealership with low overhead, friendly, small-town values, and great deals on new Ford cars and trucks. Here are two kinds of eco-friendly, energy-efficient Fords you can find right now at North Bay Ford.
Get turbocharged direct injection performance with EcoBoost smart performance engines in the Ford Taurus, Explorer, Edge, F-150, Escape, Flex, and Fusion. Or get the power of gasoline and the savings of electricity with the new Ford C-Max and Fusion hybrids.
Head over to North Bay Ford and test drive a new eco-friendly, fuel-efficient Ford and enjoy the ride of your life. We look forward to meeting you at locally owned North Bay Ford, 1999 Soquel Avenue, Santa Cruz, or on our web at northbayford.com.
Research shows it's not just what you put in your body that counts, it's what you put on it as well. Why not use an all-natural, healthy, mineral-based makeup that actually benefits your skin? Once you experience the airiness and flawless coverage of Youngevity mineral makeup, you will never use anything else. With Youngevity, the perception of your complexion will be natural perfection. Animal-friendly mineral makeup at Mary Lou Health. That's MARILUHealth.com. Or call 855-321-HEALTH.
So you finally decided to start taking a vitamin supplement. Those chewables and tablets are fine if you don't mind paying for something that is only absorbed about 4 to 6%. However, a liquid supplement can have a 90% absorption rate if you choose the right one. Youngevity offers a wide variety of liquid supplements with a 90% absorption rate or more. Beyond Tangy Tangerine may be the best one ever invented. It starts as a liquid that is freeze-dried like those instant coffees into a crystal. Then all you have to do is add a couple of scoops to water. No refrigeration, no fuss, no mess. Not only do you get a complete multiple vitamin, Beyond Tangy Tangerine also has minerals, and it tastes fantastic. You'll want to drink it all day long. So the next time you reach for a vitamin supplement, reach for Beyond Tangy Tangerine from Youngevity. For more information or to order, call Andy or Phyllis Anderson at 888-245-0300. That's 888-245-0300.
What's left every Monday from 2 to 4 p.m.? It's Alex Darnell, who takes a progressive approach to the stories and issues that affect us all. Alex wants to know what you think as well. If you agree with him, great. If you disagree, even better. Alex invites you to participate. So tune in to What's Left every Monday from 2 to 4 p.m. for Alex Darnell on your Listen and Be Heard radio station, KSCO AM 1080.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and my guest today is former Senator Fred Thompson. And before the break, we were talking about how the lack of oversight leads to a lack of consequences. And whether it's the tragedy at Benghazi, the IRS targeting White House enemies, or the Fast and Furious scandal, there seem to be no consequences. So what's the solution?
Well, there was an old governor back years ago down in the state of Georgia who came in, and they were having prison riots, and they asked him, what are we going to do about these prison riots? And he said, doggone it, I don't know until we get a little better class of prisoners.
Oh, no.
So, I think that that's going to be the answer to our problem. Ultimately, there are no magic solutions to any of these things other than the ballot box. You can't make people. Occasionally you can catch somebody in a very unusual situation and punish them criminally, but that's usually as much of a farce as it is the rule of law. I mean, take Scooter Libby, for example. Think of all the people who have been prosecuted, all the things that have happened in this country over the last several years, and think of the only guy that I know who wasn't a spy or something like that that's been federally criminally prosecuted, and that's Scooter Libby. Uh-huh. So that's not an answer. Ultimately, the American people have to decide the kind of governors that they want, the kind of leaders that they want, and the kind of administration they want, both in both branches of government.
But let me ask you something, because this is what bothers me about, you use the word systemic problems. So let's talk about that for a moment. If the problem is systemic, does it really matter who you plug into it?
Yeah, it does. When I say systemic, I'm thinking mostly in terms of size. Mm-hmm. When a government gets in, and which gets to the problem of lack of oversight also.
Right. When
the government gets so big, it becomes unwieldy. Nobody can keep up with it. You still have basically the same number of members of Congress that you've had, well, for many, many years, since the last states were at it. And the government has expanded tremendously. All these agencies and all these bureaus and all these people to keep up with. Every deputy assistant has got an assistant deputy assistant, and it goes on and on and on and on, and it just can't be kept up with. So as long as we keep expanding government, and as long as they're intent on, getting involved in every aspect of our lives, I mean, people talk about lack of privacy now because of the NSA. The NSA is not costing us our privacy. It's the government as a whole. I mean, there's nothing they don't know about us. I mean, what is it that the IRS does not know about American citizens or anybody that wants to start a business or anything? The information that is demanded of the American citizen is staggering. So.
But I think that's really my point. If the
so
system is unwieldy, then does it matter who you plug into an unwieldy system that can't be managed anymore?
Well, you assume that there's nothing that can be done about the system, and that's the key, is to get people who will attack that problem and will bring it, under some manageable control. And that takes leadership at the top, and it takes leadership from a president of the United States. We now have one who is intent on expanding it as much as he possibly can. The American people have elected him twice now, and we're seeing the results of it. And until we decide that we want a more manageable government that somebody can keep up with, that somebody can oversee, where people can be held accountable, we're going to see this problem.
Yeah. Yep, I'm with you there, and it's pretty disturbing. I spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C. on both coasts, and I'm very alarmed, but I'm a little concerned that pretty much if you plug in one or two really capable leaders, I think they would be eager for their term to be over and return home or into corporate life where they could actually get something done.
When people ask me why I voluntarily left the Senate.
Right, because you can't get anything done, and people. The right leaders insist on getting things done, and when they can't get something done, they just move on.
Well, mine was a little different. I said after I spent 8 years up here, it made me long for the realism and sincerity of Hollywood.
That is very funny. So listen, I can't let you go without asking you about our foreign policy, because that seems to be all over the map, and part of the problems in Benghazi stem from that as well. I wonder how you feel about this practice of sending American drones into foreign countries without getting any permission.
Well, I have mixed feelings about it. Mm-hmm. I feel that if we can take out, we're in an asymmetric war now, and if we can reach in and touch someone that needs to be touched that way, then that's a good thing. On the other hand, anything that becomes too easy, it tends to be overused. And anything that goes around comes around. Mm-hmm. I think there are going to be consequences to it that we don't foresee now. This administration wants to cut the military, cut back on our capabilities, cut down the number of troops, cut down our involvement anywhere for anything, so that money can be saved to carry out his social welfare programs. So that tends to make them want to do what they feel like needs to be done as cheaply as possible, and with no risk to troops and no troops, and that leads to drones. So I think that they can be used as a part of our national security operations, as a part of our foreign policy. But I think that when we come to rely on them like that, to the extent that we are, as opposed to tough diplomacy, as opposed to a strong military, as opposed to instilling the fear necessary in the hearts and minds of extremely bad people around the world, then I think there are going to be bad consequences that come from that.
What are we going to do?
We're not going to be the only one with drones.
That's my problem is if we're entering foreign soil without permission with drones, what happens when they have drones and they decide to take out who they perceive as American enemies?
Well, I'm not
on our soil. I mean, how are we going to deal with that?
I'm not sure it's being done without permission. To start with, the people in Yemen and Pakistan and these various other places have to, for the sake of their own political situation, have to complain about it. But my guess is that none of this is being done without at least the acquiescence of leadership in the countries where it's being done. But that's just part of the problem. It's to get to your point, there's nothing that's going to keep them from doing it. But on the other hand, there's nothing that keeps them from doing it now. If we never used a drone, they would be just as avidly out there trying to develop weapons of mass destruction to use on us.
Yes, that's right. Well, we have to take our last break, so stay right where you are. We'll be right back with our guest, Fred Thompson. You're listening to the Costa Report. I'm here today with Scott Caraccioli of Caraccioli Cellars. Now, there's a number of ways you can taste wines at the tasting room. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we currently have 9 different wines on our tasting menu, and we really want it to be an experience where you get to taste the wine that you want to taste. So if you want to taste Pinot, you can really focus your flight around that. If you wanted to focus on the bubbles, we have 3 different sparklings that will allow you to build your flight that way. Or if you came in and you just wanted to taste one wine, we would have it set up for you to be able to do that as well.
Now, what's a flight?
A flight is basically a combination of small tastes of different wines. If you wanted to taste all of our different Chardonnays, you could taste the 2007 Chardonnay, the 2008, and the 2009, and we would line you up with an individual taste of each of them.
Thank you for being with us again, Scott.
Thank you, Rebecca.
If you listen to the news today, you might come away with the impression that our biggest challenges are political and economic. But if this were true, then countries which have different political and economic systems would be facing different problems. But they aren't. Every government and every nation is struggling with job creation, debt, immigration, climate change, terrorism, healthcare, energy, and wild swings in financial markets. So something else must be going on. That's why I'm inviting you to get a copy of The Watchman's Rattle, a book which shows how the Roman, Mayan, and Khmer empires once faced similar challenges and what we can do to avoid their fate. Visit RebeccaCosta.com today and get a copy of The Watchman's Rattle, because once you do, you'll never look at the world the same way.
With new economic policies in place and the financial future hard to predict, where do we go from here? I'm Bill Wattenberg, and I'd like you to join me with financial advisor Pat Vitucci at a special financial and insurance presentation on Thursday, August 22nd in Monterey at the Hyatt Regency, 7 p.m. in the evening. How are you affected by new tax laws and stock market trends? What factors could hurt investment performance? And what investment mistakes should you avoid? And can you protect your assets and still live comfortably? Join me, Bill Wattenberg, and Pat Vitucci. That's Thursday, August 22nd in Monterey at the Hyatt Regency, 7 p.m. in the evening. Absolutely no cost, no obligation. Be sure to call to reserve seats at 800-472-8305 or check don'tinvestandforget.com.
Security and advisory services offered through NPC, member FINRA and SIPC. A registered investment advisor. Fitucci & Associates Insurance Services and NPC are separate and unrelated. A representative may contact you after the seminar. Pat Vitucci, California license 0758212. Bill Wattenberg is not an NPC representative.
Don't miss Links That Stink with Hellbard every Wednesday at 7:15 a.m. on Good Morning Monterey Bay.
Baby bangs. Oh, these are all in the news. Well, yeah, babies are, a lot of babies, especially you white babies, are born without hair. What's wrong with you kids? They're born bald. When I was born, I actually was born a tuft of hair. And in like 2 years, legs sprouted up. Like a tadpole. My hair is actually 14 years older than the rest of my body.
It was like mopping the floors right when you came out. Just, oh, he's here. I'm clean.
I was a kitchen appliance for the first 5 years.
Born a kitchen mop and developed into the world's leading authority on how to waste your life surfing the internet, Hellbard and Links That Stink Wednesdays at 7:15 a.m. Good Morning Monterey Bay, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. on KSCO AM 1080.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and my guest today is Fred Thompson. And before the break, we were talking about the reality that if we're sending drones to do our bidding on foreign soil, that we had better prepare for the fact that drones are likely to come our way one day as well. You mentioned earlier that we secure the permission to enter foreign countries, but let's take the case of Pakistan. Even though it wasn't drones, we decided not to disclose to a country that we claim is our ally and to just go in there and take out Osama bin Laden. That's, to me, that sends such a confusing message. You're our ally, but we're not going to tell you that we're coming into your country to take out one of our greatest enemies.
Well, because we don't trust them.
But they're our ally. I mean, if we don't trust somebody, how can we call them an ally?
Well, that is not as incongruous as it seems. Allies spy on one another. Number one, and number two, certainly we know how successful we've been in protecting our vital information. Not very. And we don't expect other countries would either. There are people in the military there that are keeping one foot in the other camp. Mm-hmm. They know that the United States of America has no stick-to-itiveness anymore. They know that we're not there for the long haul. They know that we'll be gone, and the bad guys will be there. So it's very likely that some people in the higher levels of the military there would have tipped them off. And if you have got a known terrorist, an admitted killer of Americans, located somewhere, it really shouldn't matter.
But could you even imagine for a moment, Mr. Thompson, us going in under the cloak of darkness into the UK without telling them, or into France or Italy? I mean, isn't there a bit of a double standard when it comes to the Middle East?
Well, certainly. There's double, triple, and quadruple standards. Every situation has got to be judged on its own. No, I wouldn't imagine that we would do something like that in Great Britain or France. But Pakistan is not Great Britain or France.
So I'm really troubled by our foreign policy because I spent a great deal of my life. My father worked for the CIA, and I spent a great deal of my life overseas. Mm-hmm. But I happen to enjoy living overseas at a time when America was really perceived as the land of opportunity, the greatest country in the world. Of course, I spent a great deal of my childhood in Japan, which was a country that had been devastated by America, but with which General MacArthur went in and he made us heroes. The Japanese to this day are some of our greatest allies. Even after a war, we just don't seem to, I don't know, I asked Chuck Yeager about this. We don't seem to have the right stuff anymore. We don't seem to be able to go into foreign countries and behave with honor and respect and have that what you call stick-to-itness. These
situations that you mentioned, you're certainly right about, but they were after we defeated them as countries.
Yes.
It was after we killed millions of them. And
is that what we have to do? Go in and decisively defeat an enemy and then bring them around?
Well, I think that radical Islam is a totally different thing. They're not a nation state, for example. They don't operate on the basis of traditionally what people perceive to be in their own self-interest as nation states. The Soviet Union, as bad as it got under Stalin or his successors, were always concerned about what we might do to them in a conflict. None of that's there anymore. This is totally different, and our difficulties abroad. I mean, we make mistakes, and I can't justify everything that's being done, but our difficulties abroad right now are not because of the fact that we're going into places and raising hell, in Pakistan or something. I think our main difficulty is that we're perceived to be weak, and that we will not do what's necessary to protect our allies. For example, you see what the Chinese are doing in the Spratly Islands, and they're easing out that way. Goodness knows the Taiwanese have got to be very concerned about what would be a better time than to attack Taiwan and to just take that country over than right now in their eyes, considering our policies and our priorities and the administration that's leading us right now. We go into Iraq. That certainly is debatable about all of that. But one thing that to me cannot be very debatable is the foolishness of, after having gone through all of that, leave lock, stock, and barrel and not try to keep the subsequent takeover of that country. We're getting ready to do the same thing in Afghanistan. He announces a surge simultaneously with an announcement of withdrawal. And
that's what I mean about we're so schizophrenic. How can you build any credibility? How can anyone ever trust us if we're behaving so erratically?
Well, we don't have that anymore. Obama went in, with his great Middle East effort and his speech and all of that, and New Day and so forth. And the United States is thought worse of today than during George W. Bush's worst time. And it's not because that we've not reached out and tried to get along with a lot of these people. It's because that their view of the world is
you have to show strength. You have to show strength.
It's Islamic fundamentalism, and we're considered to be evil, and there's nothing strategically that we can do to make them want to coexist with us, unfortunately. So it's a totally different deal. It's going to require perseverance. It's going to require stamina, and it's going to require strength. And we're exhibiting none of those things now.
And as you point out, in Japan, we made the very difficult decision of dropping nuclear weapons. And right now, a classic case is North Korea. We know they're building weapons, and we know that they've been trading arms with Iran since the 1980s.
Sure. Just
a matter of time. We can close down Iran's nuclear program, but they've got a relationship with North Korea going back many decades. So I think, it doesn't matter what we do with Iran. This is a non-negotiable. It's a non-diplomatically resolvable situation, in my view.
Yeah, it's right. There are not any good options.
No, there aren't.
We're becoming, as we work through all these things, we're becoming less of a player. And nobody wants to stay out of having troops in all these places any more than I do. Yeah. But when you absence yourself from these places, both militarily, diplomatically, and every other way, you become. You become an afterthought. There's no good solution, for example, in Egypt. Mm-hmm. But when you have the leaders of Egypt who won't even return the phone calls of the President of the United States or the Secretary of Defense or the Vice President, I mean, that's a different dimension. We've never been in that position before, I think, and they just give them the back of their hand now. We send you a few $1 billion. I mean, they've got Saudi money down there that'll replace that in a heartbeat. They don't have to listen to us, and we can't buy them off anymore, apparently. So we're left with. Nothing, and nobody is really concerned about what the United States of America thinks. And it would be nice if we could, just pull the covers over our head and come home and batten down the hatches. But that's not the kind of world we live in. We're gonna be to protect ourselves and to protect our sea lanes and protect our allies. And freedom around the world, which is going to be the basis for peace if it ever comes. We're going to have to be strong, and we're not moving in that direction.
Well, on that note, we are out of time for today. But Mr. Thompson, before we say goodbye, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for your service to our country. Thank you for making time to be with us today.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Good to be with you.
My guest next week is the captain and hero who safely landed an Airbus on the Hudson River and saved all 155 passengers on board. Air Travel Authority Sully Sullenberger will be with us. Now stay tuned for the second hour of the Costa Report when we hear what you think about our conversation with Fred Thompson. Is Thompson right? Is he wrong? You decide.
What does your website do for you? Does it simplify doing business and automate routine tasks? Does it connect with your target audience and bring new business? If you can't answer yes, then you need to contact Sunstar Media. Located on the Monterey Peninsula for over 17 years, Sunstar Media has developed websites for startups, brick-and-mortar stores, to corporations on the stock market. What makes Sunstar different is the customization that goes into every site, tailored to each client's unique needs and vision. Sunstar's experienced pros keep you ahead of the game with their custom-fit development process for website applications that cater to your company's specific needs. Learn more at sunstarmedia.com. Mention you heard this ad on the Rebecca Costa Show and get a free web analysis report on your current site or a free web consultation for your next project. Let's discuss how Sunstar can help you. Reach out to us at sunstarmedia.com.
Hi, Dale here from Jungle Plant. I thought it was time for you all to hear about the great interior plant service we provide.
Hi, this is Amanda from Office Club in Capitola. Jungle Plant has provided our office with beautiful plants and has given us reliable service for the past year. We are so happy that we found affordable plant maintenance that is perfect for our needs.
So give us a call at 462-5806, 462-5806, or visit us at jungleplant.com.
Hello, this is Donald Davidson, the host of the Perspectives radio show on Saturday at 12 noon. We have a variety of programs from constitutional rights and issues to controversial alternative health views. We interview well-known authors from many walks of life, attorneys from many fields, and internationally known health doctors. So, to hear a different perspective, join me, Donald Davidson, special guests, and regular guest hosts every Saturday at 12 noon for the Perspectives radio show, right here on KSCO.
From San Jose to Salinas, Red Hot News Talk, AM 1080 KSCO Santa Cruz.